Hello and welcome to the 2017 MEMPC PriSim Business War Games competition. This should be the second webinar that you've participated in. First one January 30th with Professor Gail Berger of Northwestern talking about building effective teams. And now in this webinar we'll go through a quick overview of the business simulation. We have one more webinar coming up at the end of the competition on Thursday, March 2nd. Look for details to be sent to you as well. That will be a live after-action review, and we'll announce the winning team. So here is our agenda for this webinar. We're going to review the objectives for the competition. I'll give you a quick overview of the business simulation, StratSim. We'll talk about some of the dynamics, and I'll give you some tips and tricks. Talk about support as you go forward in the 4-week competition, and then we'll present that timeline, tell you when things are due, and tell you a little more about that final presentation. Okay, your challenge. You will run a simulated manufacturing company. We have it set up as 2 separate competitions divided into 2 separate industries. Within each of the industries, it is a direct competition, and you should have some information from your school about the team you're on in the industry that you're in. And in your company, you produce cars, and you control all the parts of the business that you would at a company in the real world, and you see the list. You're going to set your own strategy, determine your pricing, do R&D as you see fit, and you're really in charge of everything at this company. And we're going to have you run the business for 7 years in the full competition, and one decision period is 1 simulated year. What we're going to do, though, is have you run the company in a practice round in the first year. And then we'll reset it and start the 7-year competition. More to follow on that. So why are you doing this? Because there's a prize is why. There's actually a Nexus 9 Wi-Fi tablet for each member of the winning team in each of the 2 industries. So that's why you're doing it. Well, yeah, probably, but also there could be some other reasons that you actually had interest in participating in this competition. You want to practice your business thinking. You've gone through an MEM program at your school, and now you want to try some of that business thinking out again in a competitive environment. And we'll give you a chance to do that. As you think about how complex business is and all the things that have to interconnect and tie together, it can be daunting. And a laboratory such as this competition with the simulation is very effective in helping you think about those interconnections. But at a higher level, beyond just the interconnections, thinking about the value that's being created at a business, at a company. Companies need to create value. They need to create performance for the investors, the owners of the business, the people that work at the company, and they need to keep customers satisfied so they continue to do business with the company. So in the final analysis, all those individual things that you do at the company, finance, marketing, R&D, need to tie together to create value. And some common blind spots that companies run into as they try to be successful in that chaotic business world are listed here on this slide. And some things you might run into as you run your company with your teammates in the competition. Not thinking holistically about the business, getting too siloed in one part of the organization, not thinking about how it does in fact all have to tie together, not fully understanding or having enough familiarity or fluency with the financial metrics or reports that come out. And we'll give you a chance to practice some of that. After each of the rounds of the competition, we're going to give you feedback on the finances, and you'll need to analyze those. Thinking about long-term positioning and strategic thinking. Again, not just short-term, but long-term. Keeping aware of customers. Think about external forces and adjusting, being adaptable as needed. Markets are always changing, competitors, employees at the organization. The advantages of teams, you're running your company in a team, and that's the way the real world companies work. They're not typically solo exercises. They're run as a team of people working to create that value that we talked about. And the role of management versus leadership, they're probably not the same thing. Leadership is a higher level kind of thinking about the vision and the future of the organization. Management is making sure that that vision and mission is executed on day to day. leadership is more important as you set the direction for the company, whereas then executing, implementing that plan becomes very important. So the way you're going to practice this within this simulated environment is to actively run the business, not just talk about it, but as I mentioned, a laboratory where you're actually going to practice some of these business points. And you're going to see it play out. Some of those blind spots play out as well. We're going to overwhelm you with data just like in the real world, and it's going to be up to you to decide what's relevant and what you need to focus on. Go ahead and try some things out, make mistakes. You know what the prize is? It's a nice prize, but the knowledge, the learning, and the practice you get out of it is really the prize. Focus on the bigger picture. Get outside of your specialty area. You're on a team. You got a lot of resources you can talk to, and you can learn a lot from your network as well as you go through the experience. We find that organized teams that divide and conquer do the best. Keep that in mind, and then focusing on the end goals, not kind of getting wrapped up too much in the hurricane of activities in any given moment, but thinking about how it all is supposed to culminate and end up at the end of the competition. We think it will be fun, so make sure you enjoy the process. We think you will. We are going to give you a whole lot of information, a whole lot of thinking will come out of the experience. You can decide what 5 pounds of information from the experience you want to take out of it, out of the kind of 10 pounds that you encounter. And the outcome here again is improved decision making. That's what the goal is of this experience. So hopefully that's going to be something you take out of it. So let's get into some discussion about the industry specifically that you're operating within. There are certain customer segments. You can read more about this on Interpretive's website as you get into the simulation, but essentially there are 5 consumer segments that are purchasing cars in this competitive world, this marketplace you're operating within. And you see the numbers here on the screen. Ones are value seekers all the way up to enterprisers, denoted with a 5, that really have a different interaction with their car and thus a different set of needs and wants than value seekers do as you go to market. So you want to decide which segments are important to you as a company. And these customers have preferred products. So you can see that the classes of cars are denoted with a letter. So economy is an E, luxury is an L, whereas the customer segment from the previous screen was a number. So when you put them together, a 1E is a value-seeking customer looking to buy an economy car. 4L is a high-income customer segment looking to buy a luxury car. Don't be surprised if consumers do, though, buy cars outside their preferred class. Maybe the class of car that's available to them, say a luxury car, is not quite what they're looking for, so they're happy with a family car. And so you need to really think about those needs and wants. Customers need transportation, but some want a luxury car. Some want a family car. Some want a minivan. So you want to think about those specific needs and wants in the segments that you are going after. New customer segments may emerge. It's not a certainty, as noted on the screen here, but they could come out, so keep your eyes open for that within the simulation. So in the beginning, I mentioned we have the 2 industries. You see the details. One industry has 6 firms and one has 5 firms. So each of the teams starts with 3 cars. I'll show you that in a minute on another screen, but there are these product classes and the segments. You start at a level playing field. Every company has the same cars, different names, but the same cars, same strengths, weaknesses. No one has an advantage. Everybody has the same products, market share, etc. The starting positions in the actual competition may be different than those that you're shown in the manual or even on some of these screens. So accept what you encounter in the simulation. That's what we're asking you to deal with. And it should be very clear in terms of what the details are. So one of the things you want to think about right out of the box, and I'll show you this as I get into a quick demonstration of the simulation, but a position map. And the reason I wanted to mention this is because, kind of back to the needs and wants, you see that there's a sweet spot for this customer segment, a 2M, which is a family customer segment buying a minivan. There's a certain pricing range that they're interested in, that appeals to them, and a certain size range. And if your vehicle is within that kind of box, the sweet spot, great. You have an opportunity to offer a car to them, and hopefully they'll want to buy it. If it's not, you can see there's kind of an outlier here over to the left toward the bottom. Then that means that your cars probably aren't going to appeal to this customer segment. You could upgrade your cars, but you want to think about whether you will ever get given upgrades to the sweet spot of a given customer segment. Maybe a new car is the way to go. So just something to think about as you get into the simulation. So here are the cars you start with, industry specifics for each of the firms. One of the firms has these 6 firms, A through F. The other just has A through E. So you can come in, you'll be able to see which cars relate to you or correspond to the company that you're running. You all start with an economy car selling to the one customer, the value seekers, a family car, which is an F, selling to the family customer segment. A little confusing, but a 2F, and then a truck, the T, selling to a 3, which is a singles customer segment with specific needs and wants in terms of the cars that they buy. So this is what you start with, and from here you can develop new cars. You see the blanks on the page here: luxury, sports, minivan, or you can stick with the cars you have or some combination. It's up to you in terms of where you want to go from here, whether it's more of a niche approach or a high volume Honda type approach as opposed to a niche kind of Maserati type. Whatever you want to do, there is no specific way that you need to run this company to be successful. It's, as I said earlier, focusing, choosing a direction, then doing that well. So let me give you a little more of a demonstration of the simulation. When you go to Interpretive's website and access the simulation, this is the first screen you're going to see. I'm going to give you just a quick overview. There are a whole lot of resources available on Interpretive's website, including this kind of starting video that you might want to watch. There's also a manual that you can read, a couple of background videos even beyond this one. I just wanted to give you a quick overview of how I approach the simulation. If I go to the menu structure over here in the upper left, you can see that it's divided. The way that you access the simulation is divided into the broad areas: results and decisions, market, competition, etc. So I usually start by coming down to competition and choosing financial summary. This gives me a good background of the industry that I'm competing in. You can really get a sense, though, as the rounds progress, how the teams are performing, and you can see their strategies playing out. And you can deduce a lot by looking at their financial metrics. So this kind of industry level summary is always available to you. If you click on any blue, highlighted link here, you can drill down to more information. In this case, it includes an income statement, a balance sheet for your competitors, and then I can make decisions. Based on that, I might decide, hey, I have to do something with marketing, maybe change the pricing. The process is that you go through the various decision areas and make your decision based on where it is you and your team want to go with this company. A lot of data available about the market, consumer segments, micro segments. Those are like the 2M designations we talked about earlier. You can access pro formas. A couple of the tools that we find really helpful: focus groups and sales by micro segment. I mean, focus groups, obviously, to get an understanding of a particular customer segment. This is just a great way to do that. And then sales by micro segment, where the actual sales of a given car are, what segments are buying those cars. That's really helpful, we found. Okay, well, that's just a quick overview. I hope it helps, and you can review some of the additional materials available on Interpretive's website. Be aware that as you finance your business, you can finance it through your operations, you can issue equity. Watch out for debt. It can carry sometimes a high interest rate depending on the condition of your company, but short-term debt and long-term debt are available to you as you go through the competition. Distribution: you need to sell your vehicles through dealers, and the ratings of the dealers is impacted by the support and the profitability of the dealerships. You can change the number of dealerships operating in a given area of the country 10% a year, which drives your coverage level. Production, retooling to produce different kinds of cars than you currently are can be expensive, so watch out for that. Working over capacity is an option. It's essentially third shifts, fourth shifts in your given capacity. And you can increase your capacity if you want to. Instead of working over capacity, you can increase it up to 50% per year. We suggest you use flexible production, which allows some increase in production given a higher level of demand than you had anticipated. Technology competencies can help you reduce your cost of goods sold, and it can allow you to put into your new cars better features, and it can also impact your firm preference among customers. Product development. If you're going to upgrade a product, the old inventory is written off, except for a cost reduction upgrade. So be aware of that. You're going to want to make sure that you don't have a lot of inventory if you do an upgrade. Modifications can be made in the launch year to the products that you're upgrading or new cars. And then marketing, if you do develop and launch a new vehicle, be aware that no one knows about it. So it's going to require some marketing spend to build awareness. Boy, here's an important one. Watch out for those gross margins, the contribution margins, as you manage your vehicles, pricing. Make sure that you're making a good profit on each vehicle that you sell. And so take a look at product contributions and try to be, around 20% at least, or at least high teens in gross profit. Sales forecasts are key, and you set those in the simulation. So you're going to do your best estimate of demand and then produce accordingly. And you'll get better at this as you go through the rounds, but that sales forecasting is very important. So how do you win? Well, each company is going to decide their own measures. I know it sounds kind of crazy, but if you're running Maserati versus Honda, how would you within the automotive industry compare those two companies? They're radically different, right? One is a very niche, sports car oriented company, and one is a high volume play. So the answer of how you would compare them is that you would measure them in different ways. So you would choose, if you were running those companies or analyzing those companies, different metrics. And we're going to give you a list. This may change, but we're going to ask you to tell us on February 21st how you want us to measure you within your industry. Depending, you're going to choose metrics and put a weighting. You can read the details. We'll make this available to you. You have to do two things to win in your industry. Run a good company, but also pick the right measures. And the winner is based on final period performance. We may add some averages. Stay tuned for that. And performance is ranked across the whole industry. So the best performance in a 6-team industry will get a score of 6, then 5, etc. So in other words, if I chose, let's say, stock price, and chose that as a metric I want to be measured on across the industry, and I weighted it 50%, if I'm in a 6-team industry, industry 1 has 6 teams, and I got the highest stock price, that's a 6 times my weighting, which is 50%. So I would get a 3 if we used this reverse ranking in terms of the scoring. If you don't put a weighting on a metric, it doesn't help you or hurt you. Team that scores themselves the highest wins the tablet. The other teams just had fun, but also pulled some great learning, hopefully, out of the experience. You can make, as I mentioned, you'll make the scoring selections on February 21st. We're going to send you and make available that scoring sheet, but you're going to email it to us a couple weeks into the competition, and we'll begin to calculate that. So let's talk for a second as you kind of were, talking about scoring, gave you a demo of the simulation, but really what we want you to do as you get into this is think about the current condition of the company, the as is. I want you to do a SWOT analysis. You don't have to turn it into us, but probably makes sense for you and your teammates to sit down and think about what you like and don't like about the current condition of this company you've been handed to run. We like the acronym MOST, mission, objectives, strategies, and tactics. MOST, as you can see in the upper left, the 2B. So defining that can be really helpful. So then you have a sense for where you are today, where it is you want to go, and you can fill the gap. That's really what great companies do. They know where they're heading, They know where they are, and they do the things to fill the gap between those two. So here's the methodology that we recommend you put in place each round. Every round, we're going to give you results of the previous round, as I showed you on the financial summary in the simulation. You can access that. You can analyze, then do a new SWOT for this round, given the period of competition that we're in. Where are we at today? What do we need to change? Do we need to adjust our strategy, the 2B? What do we tactically need to do to take action? And then how does it play out at the end of the competitive round in terms of performance assessment? And then the cycle begins again. So you're going to do this 7 times in the full competition. So here are the due dates and timelines. They should mesh with what the MEMPC had sent you in previous descriptions of the competition. We're looking for these decisions to be submitted by 3 p.m. Central Time on these dates. We're going to ask for that performance measurements sheet to be turned into us on February 21st. And then we'll have a couple more rounds after that. After you've committed to where it is that you want to do, we'll still ask you to now run this company with that commitment in place and not being able to change that. Go ahead and run it for a couple more rounds, and then we'll tell you more about a 5-minute closing presentation that we'd like you to prepare and then present during the closing presentation and final results webinar on March 2nd. All right, some rules of the road as we go through the competition. First one, don't try to sabotage the market. If for whatever reason things aren't going well for you, don't if you're deeply in debt and you're out of the running to win, don't try to sabotage the market. We've seen this happen. Don't try to price gouge, over market, cut pricing unreasonably, etc. So we'll leave it as a foregone conclusion that you won't do any of these things. If you want a $3 billion interest-free loan to help you with insurmountable debt, if that does occur, we can give you one. Just shoot us an email and we can talk more about it. But you'll be automatically out of the running to win. Practice good teamwork. Don't put all the work on just a subset of team members. That's an important one. It is a team. Meet with your MEMPC school administrator at least once during the competition to touch base. We recommend that you do that. Support and assistance throughout the competition. Level 1. If you do have some technical questions about basic mechanics, go ahead and contact Interpretive, the maker of the simulation, directly. You can see their times. You can get this on their website as well. If there is a substantive question that requires analysis or strategy for the business, and you want to bounce some ideas off us, feel free to contact me or Max Hernandez, who I'll be working with, directly at memsupport@prism.com. And if you have level 2 type emergency, but you need the help right now, feel free to call my cell and also shoot us an email. And a special bonus at no extra cost to you, we do recommend that you schedule at least one 15-minute consulting session with me and Max together. We recommend that you take advantage of at least one of these sessions. So, and if 2 teams from your school, right, we have 2 different industries. Some of the schools have a team in each of these 2 industries. Combine your sessions if you could, just to be effective and efficient. And email us to schedule that. Okay, well, that's it from us for now. Good luck, and we look forward to talking with you on one of the Skype calls that we'll set up, consulting sessions with your teams, and also in the final webinar. Best of luck. Thanks for watching.